So when I first started making beats, the extent of my finger drumming was just a kick and a snare. Then over time, I added a hi-hat, maybe a open hat, I probably practiced that for a long time and realized I need to do something else to add some interest into my beats, some variation. And the best thing I thought of was to start adding some rolls, figure out how to do that. So this is the one sound that I feel like has leveled up my finger drumming and my drum programming. And I think if you guys want to level up your drum programming, then you should practice your finger drumming. So this is the sound. I'm gonna show you what it is, how I use it, and how I make it. Hey, before I get to the video, let me tell you about my new sample pack, Lifted Noise Stole These Hi-Hats. It is a drum pack built for boom bap finger drumming. It's one of my biggest struggles I ever had was creating hi-hats that sound organic. So the solution is multi-sampled hi-hats. So I chopped up some drum breaks, just took the hats, and then I built 11 kits around the hi-hats so that you can start your finger drumming and inspire some dope beats immediately. So I got into making these fills by first programming them into my drum beats, and then I later incorporated it into my finger drumming. So I was just taking this snare sound and doing a roll, flam type of thing, just manually, you know? And usually I would add that like at the end of a beat, like if I was... right? But then kind of realized this isn't the most organic sounding snare roll, and I figured it'd be more beneficial and efficient if I put a sound like that onto a single pad. So I've come to this point now where I've created this sound, and I'll incorporate that into kind of what I was doing there, and it sounds more organic because I've designed this sound so that it has like the velocity variation, so it's a little bit quieter when it first hits, a little bit louder, and there's some pitch variation. So I'll show you how I create this sound, but before I do, I'll show you a different way, a different technique that I use to kind of create a sound like this, because I think it's actually a really good technique. I prefer this now, but maybe you'll find a good use for that. Maybe you'll prefer that method, or you'll find something else to do with it. So this is a feature. I'm gonna go into the track edit and go over to global. This is a feature that became part of a firmware update in like 2.10. So what it is if you look at the sample play, you have three options: one shot, note off, and note on. So note on would be, right, you only hear it as long as you're holding the pad. But there's this new one, newer, let's say since 2.10, which is note off. So when I press a pad, you don't hear a sample until I let go. Okay, so I'm gonna go over here to samples, and I'm gonna trim this to say like here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to global, and I'm gonna have this simultaneous play. It's gonna trigger my snare, pad AO2. So when I hit it, it's gonna trigger this first, and then when I let go, it's gonna trigger the other sample. So if you kind of do this little press, you get this flam sound. It's a little more difficult to control, but it does give you some more flexibility. Maybe you might find that more useful to have, because if you're playing different beats and different tempos, maybe that makes more sense to you. So while I think the note off little technique gives you more flexibility, I think it's harder to control. I think it's unnecessary. I prefer just having the flam roll sound built into a one shot, because it's such a quick sound that it doesn't really matter at what tempo you're playing. I play, you know, kind of the same tempos relatively, so it doesn't really matter too much. So now I'll just show you how I create this sound out of any snare. So if you just grab a snare, I'll go in and resample the snare by just triggering 2 hits. All right, Doesn't matter. You don't have to be super quick about it, because then we'll do some editing later. If you want to be a little bit more precise, turn velocity on so you can get, you want some variation there so it sounds a bit more natural. So I'll do that. I'll go into the sampler and switch this to resample and just trigger a couple of hits. Now that I've got this recorded and in the sample editor, I'm going to do a couple things. First, I'm going to move the endpoint all the way back over here to the first hit. And I'm going to scroll over in the process and do a slight pitch shift. So I'm going to hold shift because I don't want to do a whole semitone. And I'm just going to roll over here to like 20. Then I'm going to move that back. And then I'm going to move it over here. And then I'm going to process this and do the same thing, but I'm going to go the other direction. So I'm going to go like plus around 20 or so. Okay, so that just adds a little more organic variation because I'm using the same sample to create this. All right, so now it's a little bit too, there's too much separation between the first snare hit and the second one. So I'm going to pull this back to about here and then pull this start point to here or so. Let's just go a little bit, and then I'm going to turn this all the way over to delete, and so it's going to delete that space. I'm going to have a quicker hit. I want something a little bit quicker, so I'll do some more. Go ahead and delete that. And then I've got the sound just like that. Go over to track edit, and then put it on this pad. It's my last sample. There's the vid. I hope you found some value in it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment in the comment section. Keep on practicing your finger drumming. And if you want 11 drum kits just like this, go pick up my new drum pack. Lifted Noise stole these hats. They got 11 kits that you can finger drum with rolls just like this on there. So keep on practicing. Keep on running with your dreams. Y'all bless. Peace. Take care.